The world's most powerful militaries spent decades building billion-dollar aircraft. Then a collapsing terrorist group figured out how to turn a toy you could buy on Amazon into a flying bomb, and nobody had an answer. This is the story of the cheapest weapon that ever rewrote modern war. The foundation of this transformation was a white, plastic quadcopter, the DJI Phantom. Mass-produced by a Chinese manufacturer, this consumer toy quickly flooded global retail markets, selling on Amazon for between $300 and $1,000. Its rapid spread prompted the Wall Street Journal to label it the Model T of drones, highlighting how it democratized the sky. Long before its deployment in combat, the Phantom solved the most difficult challenge of amateur aviation. Unlike traditional fixed-wing hobby planes that required constant forward speed and runways, the Phantom's 4 rotors allowed it to hover stably in place. It was cheap, reliable, and incredibly easy to operate. Built originally for filmmakers and real estate agents, the machine required no military training to fly. But this extreme accessibility is precisely what made the Phantom the ultimate strategic enabler for an insurgent army. In 2014, ISIS deployed these quadcopters across Iraq and Syria strictly for observation. This early surveillance phase lasted nearly 2 years. In Raqqa, operators flew drones over Syrian military outposts and the Raqqa International Airport, mapping defensive layouts and supply routes before launching ground assaults. At the same time, the group used the aerial cameras to fuel its propaganda machine. Drones hovered over suicide car bombs, filming the vehicles from above as they drove toward hostile checkpoints. This high-definition footage was broadcast globally, projecting an image of sophisticated military capability. This 2-year lag before weaponization allowed operators to master the sky, proving the drone's value as an aerial eye long before it ever carried a bomb. In October 2016, near the Syrian border in northern Iraq, Kurdish Peshmerga fighters shot down a commercial DJI Phantom that appeared to be conducting basic reconnaissance. They carried the plastic quadcopter back to their outpost for examination. While they inspected the frame, a hidden explosive device rigged inside the chassis detonated. The blast killed 2 Kurdish soldiers instantly and severely wounded 2 French Special Forces operators stationed at the base. This incident is widely recognized as the first documented battlefield killing by a non-state actor using a commercial drone. Rather than relying on suicidal booby traps, ISIS engineers rapidly shifted to reusable bombing systems. They began mounting lightweight 45mm aluminum tubes beneath the Phantom's fuselage, secured by simple mechanical trapdoors. Technicians stripped the fuses from rifle grenades and small mortar rounds, retrofitting them with plastic tail fins for stability and impact-sensitive nose detonators. When the operator triggered a command from a standard handheld transmitter, a tiny servo motor pulled a release cable, swinging the trapdoor open. By January 2017, this do-it-yourself innovation enabled the first systematic drone bombing runs over Mosul, turning off-the-shelf toys into persistent precision bombers that targeted Iraqi outposts with devastating regularity. By early 2017, U.S. Central Command documented a relentless surge in the skies over Mosul, logging roughly 1 hostile drone every single day. What began as an isolated threat quickly evolved into a coordinated, systematic campaign. At the operational peak in the spring of 2017, analysts estimated that ISIS launched between 60 and 100 weaponized drone missions across the front lines. This sudden expansion relied on a highly organized military hierarchy. The group established a formal, dedicated drone unit structured to coordinate aerial attacks and manage supply lines. ISIS built a network of assembly workshops and rapid training academies to scale up their operations. By some accounts, this system allowed them to field hundreds of trained operators to direct the strikes. Cheap plastic quadcopters evolved from hobbyist platforms into standard military assets. Conventional ground forces, accustomed to absolute air superiority, had to adapt to a constant, hostile battle rhythm controlled from the sky. the battlefield had changed permanently. The true power of this weapon lay in its ability to execute 3 distinct military roles in a single flight: scouting the target, dropping the bomb, and filming the blast for recruitment videos. Within hours, propaganda channels filled with this overhead strike footage, including digital montages of drones hovering over Western landmarks to project global reach. On the ground, these strikes were accurate enough to force coalition troops to reposition, reorient, and sometimes retreat. Lacking any specialized training or counter-drone technology, Iraqi and Kurdish troops fired AK-47 rifles into the sky, hoping to knock the quadcopters down. Military analysts compared this chaotic response to celebratory wedding gunfire, effective almost by accident. At this moment, there was no established doctrine, no fielded system, and no training for a hostile sky. The world's most advanced armies found themselves temporarily defenseless against a $300 toy, with no option but to watch the sky in terror. On October 13, 2017, an ISIS quadcopter hovered over a Syrian army ammunition depot in Deir ez-Zor and dropped a single half-kilogram explosive. The impact ignited a massive chain reaction, destroying 15 tons of stored munitions and instantly wiping out 80% of the depot's capacity. A $300 toy had inflicted strategic battlefield damage. The coalition response was systemic. Beginning January 7, 2017, Allied F-16s and Harrier jets launched precision airstrikes targeting drone assembly workshops and launch sites across the Mosul industrial zone. Simultaneously, the Pentagon retasked its Joint Improvised Explosive Device Defeat Organization, an agency originally built to counter roadside bombs, to hunt threat drones. As emergency counter-drone procurement surged, specialized jammers capable of disrupting consumer drone signals arrived at forward operating bases. The era of undisputed low-altitude airspace had vanished, forcing the world's most advanced militaries to spend billions of dollars to shield their forces from a cheap plastic threat. The Mosul blueprint quickly escaped the borders of Iraq and Syria. In January 2018, a coordinated swarm of 13 crewed, explosive-laden drones launched an attack against Russia's Maymim Air Base in western Syria. Just 7 months later, in August 2018, 2 commercial quadcopters carrying explosives detonated near a military parade in Caracas, targeting Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro during a live television broadcast. The tactical formula had traveled across the globe: a cheap, off-the-shelf airframe combined with a miniature bomb. This simple, lethal idea was now open source, detached from any single faction or territory. In Ukraine, this open source blueprint reached industrial maturity. Volunteer workshops and state-backed programs adapted the Mosul model, utilizing first-person view racing drones as precise, high-speed, guided missiles. Rather than assembling them in secret backyard sheds, modern builders construct these platforms in the tens of thousands every single month. At a unit cost of around $500, these improvised quadcopters carry anti-tank warheads directly into armored vehicles. The improvised concept born in the streets of Mosul has scaled into a primary weapon category, permanently stripping armored vehicles of their traditional safety in Europe's largest land war. A $600 retail quadcopter now forces defenders to fire million-dollar interceptor missiles. Early remedies like radio frequency jammers, nets, and physical interceptors struggle to solve this basic imbalance. As a result, counter-drone spending surged from nearly zero in 2016 toward a global market projected to reach tens of billions. The Pentagon's 2027 budget request reflects this pressure, directing $75 billion toward drone and counter-drone systems combined. Before Mosul, militaries viewed commercial quadcopters as cameras or toys. Today, from Washington to Beijing, commanders plan defenses around an off-the-shelf machine designed for civilian hobbyists. Today, the illusion of secure skies has vanished. As this asymmetric threat spreads to every corner of the globe, military dominance no longer requires billions. The sky is now an open, unpredictable battleground for anyone. Subscribe for more investigative military documentaries.